And we should actually be live now. I realize what my mistakes were.
Uh-huh.
In an
Have you
ideal world, the mistakes
have you
have been.
prayed for forgiveness?
No, I have not.
No?
I have
Well
not
then,
prayed for forgiveness.
okay.
But everything should be good now. We should actually be live.
I see it live now.
You see it live now? Okay,
I
cool.
think I
So the issue
so
is that
it's streaming on my thing, but
YouTube is forcing
and I'm getting text
all
messages now.
YouTube is forcing people to use their new Creator Studio, and their new Creator Studio actually has a different stream key than the original Creator Studio does for streaming. So there's probably a dead video on my channel somewhere now of us just shooting the shit to no audience.
Oh, great.
So,
That's why. Okay. Uh,
speaking of YouTube, there's a bunch of things they're screwing up right now that we should
right.
probably speak on. So
I'm like moving things around on my page now. All right, I want the chat over here.
so
Interfaces, man.
the
Okay.
first thing is it is Thursday.
Yes.
So
Happy Thursday. Welcome to Hammered Out. We have returned
we actually have
after
been
too
able to.
fucking long of a hiatus. I'm sorry, guys, but
There's been too much stuff going on with both me and Ocean that has prevented us to actually do the podcast because unlike a regular video where I can produce something in advance when I know that my schedule is going to be really bad, I can't produce a live show in advance.
at this time, like the dumpster truck of schedule problems wound up being dumped on both of us around the first of the year,
Yeah.
and it's just been absolutely crazy. A good kind of crazy for both of us though, because there's been a lot of change and a lot of things that are like really positive in both of our lives. But it has caused Hammered Out to be like, oh, I gotta put this on the side, right?
Yeah,
So
it's unfortunately had to be a back burner thing, which sucks,
yeah,
but we are here.
but we are back. Damn it. And there's been a lot that we've wanted to discuss and really go into because shit has been popping in the atheist, anti-theist community. Like there's a lot of things going on with that. There's even been some stuff popping around in the polytheist community that we might want to jump into a little bit in some later episodes. But you know, a couple of things. I guess we want to jump into what's going on with like first addressing something that happened today.
Yes.
We want to talk about Godless Cranium's channel, right? Like what the hell?
So Godless Cranium, he's one of the content creators who inspired me to make my show. In the beginning, it was him, Holy Kool-Aid, Cosmic Skeptic were like some of the big ones that did it. So it hurts when I see that this morning, Godless Cranium was demonetized, completely demonetized.
Yeah, complete like YouTube.
Like
has
the
just been
whole
nope,
channel has been
you're not
demonetized
allowed.
down.
You're outside of our community standards. You suck. Go away. We don't want to give you money anymore. And he just posted a screenshot of it on Twitter this morning.
Yes.
Um,
And they gave their reasoning for it. And that's the part that confuses me and and disturbs me a bit.
Really?
Yes, I actually have it pulled up right here.
Oh dear.
The reasoning
Okay.
was currently ineligible for monetization. Here's why your channel was not approved for monetization. Your channel is out of compliance for reused content. In most cases, you can't re-upload someone else's content unless you get permission first. Remember, it's not enough to credit the content creator or to state that no copyright infringement is intended. Learn more about copyright and fair use. I love that they linked fair use when all of his videos fall under fair use.
All of his views, yeah, everything falls under fair use. He is commenting on these channels.
Yes, and it says here are some types of content that are subject to copyright: audio-visual, sound recordings, visual and written works, dramatic works such as plays and musicals, and video games and computer software. This means your channel will no longer earn money from YouTube, including revenue from advertising, YouTube Premium subscriptions, so your fans can't even send you money through YouTube anymore.
Wait, the fuck?
Yeah, that cuts off the fans' ability to pay you as well. So if your fans want to help you out, YouTube will not give them that avenue through YouTube. It cuts it out completely. Yeah. You also lose anything like memberships, and your channel's videos will lose access to all cards and end screens. So you can't even get end screens anymore.
The fuck?
Yes. So,
Like that's just ripping the rug right out from under his networking abilities. Like it's all gone. Like just like fuck you.
like
You're
you do a
like that's
you,
more fucked than I thought it was. Like I thought that it was basically like, okay, we're just gonna make it so you don't get AdSense anymore.
no, it covers
It's more than that.
everything. It rips
Okay.
out, it rips your channel out from under you. And obviously there's still some things that you'll have access to, but
Like
I
he still
mean,
got his Patreon, for example, because that's unrelated.
yes, you
Um,
you still have your Patreon. But remember, we had an episode, um, a while back. I don't think it was a hammered out episode, but there was an episode a while back that me and Godless Cranium had on monetization and Patreon when Patreon pulled Sargon and people started pulling their payments. Like Logic lost like $200 per video off of just people upset at the Sargon situation. I lost only like 3 or 4 patrons off of that situation because people went, I don't support the
but that's
platform.
3 or 4 people though. Like that's
Yeah, that's 3 or 4 people out of the
3 or 4
45
people.
patrons that I have.
Yeah.
Like it's a decent percentage and decent number to lose. So it's upsetting to me that like Cranium spent a very long time trying to get his YouTube to be his full-time thing, but he was never quite able to do it because the amount of money that it takes for his standard of living requires him to work 60 hours a week at his job plus
Plus do the YouTube
plus
stuff.
do the YouTube stuff.
So he's like working all the time, man.
Yes.
Like
He's also sick. He's also been sick a lot too as a result. So it sucks.
yeah, I mean that'll do it. You can't get the rest, man.
Yeah, if you can't get rest, you'll get sick. And if you're sick, you can't be a content creator and you can't go to work. So, here you are in a situation. And the dude works in social services, so it hurts as well because it's like this is a guy that's literally just doing his best for the people around him.
Right.
So,
Well, I mean, so I guess everybody watching, like, if you Cranium's in a tough spot right now. If you can toss some Patreon his way, just because YouTube's being a dick.
yes, if you do have the ability to give him something through Patreon, please do, because he's not the only channel that this happened to. Apologia pointed out that one of the Christian channels that he's had on his radar, one of the apologist channels, he didn't name which one it was, but apparently that channel got hit as well, and they turned it into a persecution narrative, except it doesn't work because an atheist channel got hit as well. So this is not a targeted thing that's at strictly anti-religious content or strictly religious content. This is a thing that's just hitting content creators.
Unless there's 2 bigots that are
Fair enough.
like there's a rabid Christian that works at YouTube that's like fuck the atheists, and there's another like rabid atheist like fuck the Christians, and they both just like hit the channel at the same time. Like maybe that's a thing. We can go with that.
We'll just work with that whole scenario. It'll be fine.
Like YouTube's bigotry is multifaceted.
Yes, and if anybody heard Godless Cranium's opening randomly there, that's because I'm searching his links real quick to see if he does in fact have a PayPal account, because Emmett, Gaelic Knox, just asked for me to link the PayPal account for the donation. But I do not see a PayPal account there, but I do see his Patreon account, and I am willing to post his Patreon account. That's fine. Because I am also a patron of Godless Cranium, because he's a good guy. So, there's that. If you guys do have the ability to become a patron of his, even for $1, then I would say do. He doesn't even know that I'm doing this. I'm not doing this to gain rep with him at all.
For me, it's because like honestly, he's been somebody. As I've been around in this scene, he's been one of the guys that's been like, as far as like the atheist community goes, one of the people that's like reached out to me and like had conversations in which he's like trying to understand my position and all that other kind of stuff, rather than coming off as just being like, I'm anti-theist, therefore you suck, ocean kind of approach.
Yeah, we know somebody who's like that, but we won't mention them.
Right, there's somebody, but there's a few people like that, honestly. But
yeah,
but with Godless Cranium, like Godless Cranium, as far as any pagans watching, was scheduled to be on a debate with me on Modern Day Debate to argue polytheism versus monotheism versus Christianity, saying that polytheism was the more rational perspective of the two, which was something that, and he was willing to jump into reading all the philosophy behind it, reading, like getting into the arguments and doing some practice runs and all that kind of stuff in order to prepare for that debate. The opponent, however, turned out being a coward and ran off. So, it never wound up coming to fruition. But he did wind up reading a lot of the material, asking questions, coming into like my Discord server and asking questions and taking it very seriously. So from that, like in exchanges, he's always been a stand-up guy. So I definitely speak well of him.
Yep, and I do as well. I haven't been able to do a proper collaboration with him, but I have helped him out on Heathen Hour when he was still running that once. And then when he did the Star Wars opening for one of his videos, I created that one for him because I'm just like, hey, I can do the thing real quick for you. So even without a proper like full-on collaboration with the guy, I still think he's a good guy and he needs support because YouTube just yanked this stuff out from him.
And AdSense, that's not. He's like a 30K subscription channel. That's
yes.
That's not like a few pennies that are being ripped out from under him.
No, that's a good
like
few $100s.
Yeah.
Like for instance, for me from AdSense, I've gotten my last 2 AdSense payments were $500. That's not a lot, but that is my rent payment. So
right, and your channel's a third of his size.
Yes.
So that's get an idea of how much if his monthly bills have just been yanked out from under him.
Yeah, that's like losing $1,500 a month right there. If we were to just assume the sliding
assuming
scale.
that yeah.
So.
But,
it's definitely a dumb situation, and apparently somebody said something in the chat, but I couldn't see it because I had Top Chat on, so I have no idea what they said, which is fine. I just see people responding to them. But anyway, so the reason I wanted to bring that up is originally the topic of this was going to be moving on specifically in regards to how there seems to be a trend with atheist and skeptic channels on moving on to other issues that are sometimes tangentially related to atheism and sometimes not. Usually they're just somewhat tangential, and that's how they can stay relevant. Because me and Godless Iowan had a show about this a long time ago, where the problem with atheist content is that atheism on its own lacks content.
You're not defending anything, you damn atheists.
like especially if you take the lack of belief position.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing there, which is fine. The only problem is that like your identity essentially becomes anti something else, and that means that if that something else is defeated, you now become the rebel without a cause. Essentially,
right?
There's now nothing to your identity because your identity was linked to something you were against.
So the first, we can go into a little bit of history on it. Do you want to jump into that now, or do we want to talk about the other aspect of moving on that we're talking about?
We'll talk about the other aspect of moving on first because that's the shorter discussion.
Yeah.
The other aspect of moving on is obviously this little studio area that you guys have gotten used to over the past since my channel began.
This is some Surus personal tea you're about to hear. He's going to put some tea on the table.
I mean,
things are changing in Surus's life. This is the reason why Hammered Out has been.
I got some tea in here. Does that count?
Just no. Don't talk about what we're drinking.
As we both take a drink
at the same time. All right, get out of my house. Anyway, so what you're saying?
So what I'm saying is this studio area is going to be changing. Not because we're going to move things around, but because we are moving into a new house. That should be happening on May 20th, I believe. So here in 2 months, basically. So we've got 2 months to save up enough money to move into the house, and 2 months to renovate the house, and that is a fun situation. On my birthday, actually, Ocean came down to the house that we are trying to get renovated and helped me clean out the last of the major stuff that was in the house. There's still stuff that needs to be pulled out, but it's not like huge project stuff anymore that has to be pulled out. All that stuff had to be pulled out because we had to get an inspection to see what needs to be done in the house. So, Ocean, would you like to tell me what you found?
You've got a project ahead of you. So for those that don't know, I guess I don't talk about like what I do in real life online very much, but a lot of things that I've wound up doing in real life has involved house renovations, and usually the stuff that I'm doing is more like it's house flipping. So we're getting a house that needs work and then turning it into something that can be more presentable and be able to be sold for higher than the cost of purchasing the house, and also the renovations that went into it. And voila. In your case, you've got a very interesting situation where the reno is going to be an extensive project. So you got the house like ridiculously cheap, right?
Yeah, the house itself, and the house is on 2 acres of land too. So
Yeah, that's huge.
bear in mind
So,
the acres of land are almost like I almost paid for just the acres of land and what was spent, but it was basically $30,000. That we found out it technically could have been $20,000 because of a legal thing, but we didn't find that out until we found the original will. So basically, the house was sold before anybody had found the actual will, so it just went under who was assumed to have ownership rights to the house, and each person was getting $10,000 for the house. But we found out that one of the people that got paid the $10,000 actually did not have an ownership right to the house, so they just ended up getting $10,000 for free, and we didn't find the will until we were cleaning out the house, because anybody who's seen pictures of what the house used to look like knows why it was so damn hard to find a will in the place.
So this place looked like, okay, so one of the things that we found in this house, man, was like they kept the boxes of everything that they owned, that
Yes.
the boxes came in. And we're not talking about like collapsed boxes, man. Like there wasn't like
every
a
box
stack
fan they bought, every computer
was
they bought.
intact. Like all the boxes, they were intact and like in random areas throughout the house. So every room had a pile of boxes. Like any order that they had made, any electronic that they had purchased, right down to like if they had bought like a table fan, right? Which there are a few of those with plastic bags over them for some reason.
Yeah, everything in the house had plastic bags over it. Some of the stuff I could understand, like they had plastic. I think they had the plastic bags because the house was so prone to moisture. It was the only way to protect anything in that house. But at that point, it's just a bandage on it.
Yeah. Anyway, so there were things with this house. It was definitely mismanaged. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
I don't. Anyway, so, but yeah, there's things like that just pretty much everywhere. And then there's also large furniture pieces which we had to move. And then there was, and like one of the things that I noticed in the bathroom when I'm stepping into the bathroom and the floor nearly falls out from under me.
Yeah, the floor sinks in about 6 inches.
That was an adventure.
Yeah, no, what we had to do with the bathroom. We had to do with the bathroom was we had to chuck Ocean into the bathroom on the far side where the floor was stable.
I was chucked into the bathroom, yes.
And then he had to chuck items out of the bathroom at us because crossing the thoroughfare multiple times wasn't safe.
Which I had gloves on. So here's one of the things that I found was apparently previous owners of the house figured out that there was a bug problem in this particular bathroom. And so, you know those little like sticky bug traps that you just put on the floor? There was one of those, I found it, and then I looked a little bit next to it, and there's another one, and there's another one. And there were varying degrees of full. And then on the other side of them, I found an overturned bottle of honey that was empty.
So why do you think they had a bug problem?
There's a story here.
Instead of cleaning up the bottle of honey, they put down bug traps.
So I don't know. These kind of things wound up kind of being discovered throughout the house. So there's areas where the floor is sinking. There's areas where the ceiling is kind of busted in a little bit. So there is a reno project ahead of you. On the other hand, though, there are some things that are really cool, like the framing on that back porch. It can be another room. The only thing you have to do is just build it out. Like there's a lot of things that are really, really positive about that place at the same time.
Yeah.
And considering
for one,
it's
a free.
You got for it. Holy shit! You can turn that place into a profitable little spot.
It's for one, it's a trailer. Technically speaking, it's a trailer in name only because it's a trailer that is sitting on a full concrete foundation.
That's a trailer?
Yeah. You didn't notice that was a trailer that was put onto a concrete foundation.
It's a double wide, or what? That's a double wide.
It was a double wide.
It has a belt on. Okay.
Yeah.
So
that was a trailer that was retrofitted into essentially a house because it has a back patio and a deck. It has a front patio, and it has
changes the name of the game. Your reno is going to be an adventure.
Yeah, and it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom place. But because it's on a foundation and has a storm cellar and everything, functionally it's no different than just a house with like slightly thinner walls at that point.
your contractor's going to be having fun.
Yeah. Oh,
You're gonna be having
speaking
a
of
lot of fun.
speaking of which, that led to one of the other issues when we were getting the house. So it turns out that because it's on a foundation, legally it has to be called what's called real property. It
Right.
cannot be called a mobile home anymore because they are two separate.
It's got a concrete foundation.
Yeah, they're two separate categories. The previous tenants had never moved it over to real property, even though everything was built out. So we had to do all that paperwork. We had to deal with the paperwork of moving it over to real property.
But that's got an expense to it, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It's been fun. It's been an adventure.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of upfront costs regarding
Yeah.
being able to move into this spot. Like you're looking at, like your reno is not going to be super cheap.
No, and the renovation. So
To make it
what types of things have we found that are that are going to need to be addressed in the renovation?
I mean, I don't know. It looks like some of the walls. It looks like you're going to have to tear out a lot of stuff in that house.
The electrical
like
has to
even-
be completely redone as well. By the
Yeah.
way, the electrical's not up to code.
That's man, you're looking. I don't know if you're looking at a money pit or a house. Like I'm just letting you know that like straight up, because like the kitchen itself is kind of a project, and those are expensive, especially if you're doing cabinet replacement.
There's holes in the freaking.
Like the last reno that I did, we could have done reno in the kitchen, but I was the in order to update the kitchen, and this is not like a simple repair. This was an update of ripping out the cabinets, replacing them, making it really nice, and being able to sell the place. We're looking at a price tag of around $20,000 just for that.
Phew.
So, like it can be done cheaply, and there's a guy that's saying partially what I'm thinking in this side chat right now, which is
flatten it and build a new house.
That might be a better idea, because if you honestly, if you wanted to play that game, it requires paperwork to do that, but you could build a cabin for between $20,000 and $30,000. It's nice on that land, on that foundation, assuming you have a good foundation. But but that would require the paperwork adventure and paperwork. The paperwork adventure.
It would also require us not being on the 2-month time frame that we're on.
Yes, because that's going to be a year.
Yeah, because
That's
the
not gonna be
situation
short.
we're in right now is that the house needs to be done in 2 months, and it's taken us this past month to get everything moved out of the house because Pam had to work, so it was only me. And
That's why I was like, "Sir, it's your birthday. I'm going to come move everything out for you."
yeah, basically he came onto the porch and was just like, "We're making a pathway," and just started chucking things.
Yep. I just went right to work.
So it was that was fun. So basically, what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to have the renovators make sure that the kitchen, a bathroom, and a room that can be a bedroom are done first, so that we have a place to live while they are continuing to do renovations.
You're not looking at a 2-month gig. You're looking at like a 3 or 4 month gig at least, and that's if things go easily.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
And so you're gonna be living with contractors, or you're gonna be living with construction workers for a little while as well.
Yeah, it means I'll be having to do all my stuff exclusively at night, so I'm not having to like record with power tools in the background.
True.
Yeah, that's good. It's really awkward when you're a content creator.
Service, you can come down to my place if you want to record shit. I'm just gonna let you know that right now. If you need to do that.
I make 5 episodes a week, Ocean.
I
I'm
understand
not coming
that.
down
I'm
there
talking
5
about
days a week.
If you've got 5 scripts in a row that you can just record all at once, then come on down and do it. But
You know the awkward thing about that, Ocean? I don't script my content.
That's right. You don't.
No.
See, I'm sitting here writing okay, so I'm working on my first video for my YouTube channel. I'm writing a script. Because I know me, that I'll start fucking rambling, and the
That's what I used to do.
subject that I want to deal with is not ramble friendly. So, because I'm wanting to deal with like defining the gods, like what definition is usually put forward from a polytheist perspective.
Mhm.
Look forward to that. I'm like half announcing that right now with 77 people watching.
I'll shout it out whenever it actually comes up.
Yeah, this is going to be starting. So, so that's the thing that I'm working on right now. I expect it to be done within a week. and I expect it to be there in a week. But I'm writing a script, so I don't like ramble all over the place. But you don't do that. You just like you have the subject, and then you outline what you want to talk about.
What takes me my time is research. That's what takes the time. Because like when I did the video on Clifford's Principle, I sat there for an entire day just with my nose in the freaking SCP going, okay, now how do I condense this?
I know that feel because last night I read probably about reread about 50% of Cicero's On the Nature of the Gods in order to make sure that I was correct in one sentence of what I've written so far. So I'm like, okay, all right, this is what I've done. And then I wound up that adventure wound up inspiring like 2 paragraphs of content for that channel. So, or for that video. So there's that exists.
Every time you say Cicero, my brain immediately goes to Nero for some reason.
Cicero and Nero are completely different people. History nerd. I
completely know that. It's just for some reason my brain just goes and watch Rome burn.
So Nero. People should know who Nero is. Nero was the emperor that is famous for blaming the burning of Rome on Christians. Cicero was before Christ, is contemporary with Julius Caesar, and he was he was a famous orator, like a speaker and senator, as well as a philosopher and writer. So he was like. And a lot of his writings and speeches and stuff laid the foundations for rhetoric for the next 1,000 years. Even today, there's echoes of Ciceroian rhetoric in our language. So anyway, you're nerd there for a second.
Fair enough.
But I guess, do we want to discuss your house any further, or do we want to?
I know that
you just got a world ahead of you, and I'm going to be interested in seeing like how things are dealt with. And feel free to call me if you need advice at any time for that.
Well, I'm definitely going to be giving you a call. I'm definitely going to be giving you a call when it comes time to set up studio. Because when it comes time to set up studio, you're going to be the one helping me set up soundproof panels and setting up lighting, because you're going to be using that studio as much as I am.
Right. So we need, there needs to be a whole project with that. But that'll be a while from now, I imagine. So
3 months.
Yeah, it'll be after Faithless Forum at least, which we're both going to Faithless Forum, by the way.
Yes.
That's the thing.
I'm going as a speaker. Ocean's going as a guest. I have a question. Did you get a regular ticket or a VIP ticket?
I got a regular ticket, but there's conversation about sneaking me into the VIP dinner.
There's okay. That's interesting.
It's just conversation about it. I don't think that it'll happen. I have zero expectation that it'll happen, but it's floated.
The last time that I was there, there was plenty of food, but I do know that there is that whole situation with like not giving special treatment to anybody who couldn't grab the ticket.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But I'm not there as a planner.
And that's completely fair.
Yeah, I'm not a planner. I'm just a speaker. So that'll be interesting.
Like I have zero expectation that would happen, but I do really want to hang out with like a lot of the people that are around. So that's but I will see everybody at the con. So that'll be a thing. So apparently I'll be there walking around being a pagan at a Faithless Forum. I don't know if I'm gonna have to like find a Christian there or something like that, so that we can like sit in a corner together and then get pissed off at one another and run.
There were a few Christians at the last Faithless Forum event, so I mean that's not a thing that's.
Are there any that we know? Like, did SJ sew up or some shit? Like,
no. Although some that we know are probably going to be there. Like, I believe Jonathan Sheffield and possibly Craig might be there.
Oh, really?
I would hope both of them are there because I'm friendly with both of them and I like both of them. So I mean that would be neat. So that would be a thing. So hopefully that'll be there. I know that Jim Majors from Atheist Republic is also going to be there, not in any official capacity, but just he'll be there, which will be neat.
Yeah, he's not speaking or anything. But I found out he was going to be there, sent him a message, and he and I have a beer planned. So
awesome.
That's a thing.
I don't drink, so I have a Whataburger planned.
I definitely drink.
Well, you're a heathen, so mead is like
I'm
bread
driven
and butter.
to drink by my faith. You've been to Ritual. We drink there.
Yes, I know.
Uh,
I had to refuse the alcohol. We have
um,
a $2 super chat from God the Good One. I created the planet. Sorry about that, lads. Amen.
but no, I have a habit of sneaking into places at conventions and stuff like that. Like I went to Dragon Con, which has like a $200 ticket for free, probably about 3 or 4 years in a row. Like just by sneaking in and walking in places confidently,
I
or
hopefully
borrowing tags or something like that. But
I hopefully will be able to get into Dragon Con this year because I'm trying to swing a speaking gig there.
okay, yeah, that's right. You're doing something through Jim, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It's a hopefully thing. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, then also neat. But I would like to.
Cool.
So
I actually shot part of a film at Dragon Con one time without a badge. Like
Mark Caesar asked if I'm using beard oil for the goatee this time. I do not have beard oil yet, so
I'm rocking beard oil today, actually.
it's still prickly. Sorry.
Shininess in here. You gotta do. Let's see. Divorce themselves from Ed Kramer, Dragon Con. I have no idea about anything even regarding that drama. So I've lived next to Dragon Con, for a long time now, and I've been to Dragon Con several times, but I don't know shit about like the goings-ons or the politics of it or anything like that. I used to know a lot of the politics and goings-ons of like Anime Weekend Atlanta because I knew some of the people that were like running that thing.
I'm aware of some of the politics that have happened there for the past few years.
Yeah, but past few years, more than I do, because my knowledge of it was like Anime Weekend Atlanta, like 11 to like 15 or something like that.
Fair enough.
So it was like I don't know what number they're on now at all. Anyway, so but that was like in 2006 or 7 or something like that. Anywho, more ranting. So with the moving on theme that we're discussing, we wanted to get into. We thought this would be the short conversation, but
here we are.
What are we at? Like,
we're at a time.
Yeah. Bye. No. So the thing with atheist channels. Let's get on to the subject, guys. The subject of this conversation.
This is why you need the script, right?
Say what? Yeah.
This right here.
In fact, fucking calls with me are a mess. But so atheist channels, we were talking about what they're usually talking about, what they're defending.
Yes.
And then that comes to an end after a while.
So when an atheist channel starts, you usually there's a few things that you usually get. You get a deconversion story. Yeah, you get a deconversion story. You get a Pascal's wager video. You did. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. You're fucking right.
I even have a Pascal's wager video, but it's not that Pascal's wager is features in a video of mine. It's that Pascal's wager is a footnote on my Clifford's principle video. So anytime somebody asks me what I think of Pascal's wager, I have to link them Clifford's principle.
Excuse me. We did a whole fucking Hammered Out episode with James on.
He calls it Pascal's wager because he thinks the name's pretty. It's not Pascal's wager.
It's not and I know it's not, but we address Pascal's wager for about 30 minutes.
We do, because you have to get into
and then we get into what James actually talks about,
which is not Pascal's wager.
Which isn't Pascal's wager, it's something else. But he calls it like the new Pascal's wager 2.0.
Nah.
I like James though.
The comment section on his version of that upload and my version of that upload is just like a bunch of people who are just like decision theory doesn't work like that, which is interesting. I think that
I might agree. But anyway, back to the point.
Back to the topic.
There's the things that I've noticed with atheist channels that all of them have, not all of them, most of them, maybe all of them. All of them deal with creationism at some point. I don't think that I can't think of an atheist YouTube channel that hasn't dealt with creationism at some point. And some of them just stay there. Like Apologia's channel, for example,
yes,
is still making Ken Ham videos. And
true.
Then you have like back in the early days of atheist YouTube, which I know you weren't active in, but
the Thunderfoot Why We Laugh at Creationists.
I've been lurking on the internet for some time, and I remember the 2006 dawn of atheism, YouTube atheism, which was basically like 12 about 12 atheist channels talking about creationism all the time, and it just became like the internet became, let's find a creationist who's made a YouTube channel and do debunking videos of it. Dick Coughlin was doing it, Aaron Raw was doing it, Thunderfoot was doing it, Dawn Exodus was a Christian channel turned into an atheist channel, was doing it. A ton of them were doing that, and then there was like a ton of fledglings atheist YouTube like TJ Kirk, Amazing Atheist, was doing that as well. Was making his content was more varied at that point, but he was making a lot of creationist stuff as well. Venom Fang X was like the target.
He was the person to knock down for a while.
Venom Fang X, Kent Hovind, and Nephilim Free were like the three creationists that everybody went after, and it's like Venom Fang X is gone. But it's funny that like seeing Nephilim Free still showing up on places like Modern Day Debate or Kent Hovind on Non Sequitur show. It's just hilarious to me.
Yeah,
because it's like these guys were like a joke already, but here they are.
It's like these are the memes, and now they're memes. We're just equivocating on the word meme to make this joke work.
Right. But yeah, I see they do the creationism thing, and sometimes they'll go into biblical contradiction.
And biblical contradiction,
or Bible versus science on some level that isn't creationism. That's a lot of the things that I see.
But then
like
after
Aaron
a while,
Robb is all about that shit.
True, but after a while, you end up getting a branch off for everybody. So, like for instance, Aaron Raw's branch became biology. Aaron Raw's wheelhouse is biology. You go to him for phylogeny. You go to him for why he's got like the definitive series on anti-creationism, foundational falsehoods of creationism.
Right. Did he start making videos that weren't talking about creationism but just talking about biology after a while?
He's got a bunch. He has.
I don't know. I don't.
So yes, the answer is yes, because he's got his phylogeny project videos. The phylogeny project videos are strictly biology. No religion, no nothing, just biology. And then he's got foundational falsehoods, which is biology as it applies to creationism. And then he's got his debunk videos, which are strictly anti-creationism, anti-religious, stuff like that. So he's got the three things. I just hit my mic. But he's got the three different things on his channel, but that still means that he's got his branch off.
Yeah. And this is like I was interested in the creationism debate, but I watched the shit out of it through Thunderfoot. And Thunderfoot so exhaustively handled the Kent Hovind stuff, Ken Ham, in a, I think it's like 70-something part series called Why People Laugh at Creationists.
Yes.
That I watched like most of it. I didn't even watch all of it. I watched most of it, and like I think I watched probably about 50 to 60 of them. And at that point, it was played out for me. Like I have since not been interested in any like creationism debunking video since then, unless like sometimes like there's something dramatic that happens in them, like when Non Sequitur Show had Aaron Raw and Kent Hovind on at the same time.
Yeah.
Or when Pelagia goes into a debate with somebody, that gets interesting. But like with when it's not Pelagia debating somebody, or it's just Pelagia like debunking Ken Ham or something like that, or Aaron Raw making like another creationist video, I don't like. I know some people love that stuff. For me, I just don't. I don't watch it because it's already been played out.
For me, that's kind of how I am as well. Is that I watch it on occasion. I'll usually watch mostly Pelagia stuff. One, because I like Paul as a person, and two, because he usually can get things really interesting. One, with his guests, and two, he talks about more than just the creationism aspect. Because like when he does Ham and Eggs,
and that's the thing, is there's a diversification that starts happening with a lot of these channels once they've dealt with it pretty exhaustively. And I think that the subject has been dealt with pretty exhaustively on the internet in general, like Cosmic Skeptic and Genetically Modified. Did Genetically Modified Skeptic ever deal with creationism? I think he did.
Yes, actually, he's got he has a few videos that are pro-science and against anti-evolution channels.
Yeah.
And almost every anti-evolution channel is a creationist channel.
Right. So yeah, it's true, isn't it? Evolution sucks. By the way, creationism.
Intelligent design. Why isn't intelligent design considered science? Well, probably because it's not.
What the fuck?
So
That's a tautology. Okay, anyway, so uh, there's a point where this gets played out for their audience as well. And I think that channels like Paulogia have managed to keep the diversity of content going to the point where he makes an anti-creationism video and people watch it because it's like part of the rest of his stuff. So he's able to keep it kind of going. With Thunderfoot made a shitload of them all next to each other, and then it was played out as fuck. So it was people were still doing it, but Thunderfoot like couldn't. He'd already dealt with everything, and he was just like, okay, well, all right, I've already made a video about that. I've already made a video about that. He made a video specifically tailored to Nephilim Free's discussion of the Earth ejaculating onto the moon in Noah's flood, calling it the lunar ejaculation theory, and talking about the nuances of the science behind how the Earth could not spray water at the moon. Like he dealt with it that specifically. And once all of that was done, he moved on to social commentary, started talking about feminism. And a lot of atheist channels did that, like right around that same time.
Yep. And then as soon as that stopped becoming a trend, they all started getting drop-offs in subscribers.
Right. That was like a trend for 3 or 4 years from like 2011 to 2000. I want to say 2011. It was like 2011 all the way over to like 2014, 15.
Yeah, something like that.
That's when like that content started dropping off, and it started getting into, if you're still talking about this, you're getting into a political ring. So now a lot of those atheist channels went into politics, and Thunderfoot and Sargon of Akkad are good examples of this, where they started out as atheist channels, like debunking atheist channels, but then they wound up getting into like political commentary. And in the case of Thunderfoot and Sargon, like opposite ends of it.
Yeah.
There's like, while they're both like anti-feminist channels, to so to speak, they're both anti-feminist channels. Thunderfoot went into like pro-Brexit, and Sargon went into anti-Brexit, and they fight each other.
and then we have Thunderfoot, who starts focusing on like Elon Musk and stuff like that now as well.
Yeah, exactly. But he's still trying to stay a science channel, which I'll give him.
Which is good. He doesn't fully like spiral.
And he's gone away from he seems to have gone away from the feminist thing. I haven't seen him make a video on that subject. And
I think the last video I saw him make on that was one where he was talking about Anita Sarkeesian when she was talking about how men are represented in video games versus women are represented in video games, and how much funding Anita was taking from people via like Kickstarter.
Yeah, he was big about the money thing. And
like she would make a single video and say, oh, it cost me $120,000 to make it. I'm like, I know how much it cost to make that video. You may know it didn't.
Yeah, I would look at it and be like, Anita, you're lying. You're lying or you're spending money badly. But which either could be possible. I don't know. But in the case of the Thunderfoot, at that point in time, it was like every single time Anita Sarkeesian said something, Thunderfoot had a comment on it, like immediately, like boom, boom. And like it does. It's kind of interesting that this happens with atheist channels, where they run out of content because atheism is a fairly straightforward and simple thing, and it winds up being part of something that informs your other characteristics. So we wind up seeing a lot of these people talk about their politics, or their social, like beyond their politics, more of just like their social perspective. In the case of Thunderfoot and Sargon, it wound up being anti-feminist. In the case of Aaron Ra, it wound up being pro-feminism. Even though Aaron Ra stuck with the creationist thing for that period of time, he's never shied away from the fact that he's like an unabashed feminist and has his perspectives on it, like what it means and all that. So, you know, I'm seeing some of that happen with atheist channels now, because there's like a new wave of atheist channels that have come in from like Cosmic Skeptic, Genetically Modified Skeptic, Godless Cranium, Shannon Q, Paulogia. A lot of them are coming up. Shannon Q is an interesting thing because she started off not doing, like, she's an atheist, but she's coming at it from like a completely different she's starting off with like, this is my niche, I'm going to be talking about it from
her thing from the beginning has been elevating discourse.
Right. And it's like that puts her in like a completely different category. Holy
Yeah,
Kool-Aid's another good example from the chat, and Mr. Atheist.
Yeah, which is really good considering that, like you said, a lot of the feminist stuff, typically there's a lot of nuance to it, but a lot of the channels that cover it seem to ignore some of that nuance and just like take a group of people, like when you've got your anti-SJW stuff as well, they'll take a group of people, lump them into a single category and go boom. Like for instance, when you're talking about somebody like Anita, there could be some points that she's making that are legitimate, but the point that's illegitimate is spending $120,000 on a single video that is like 10 minutes long.
Yeah,
that's a point against her. But some of the things she's saying might not be.
What they would also do, like a lot of when they were criticizing Anita Sarkeesian, is like 5 or 6 channels would take the same little snippet and just hammer on that snippet while ignoring like the broader subtle points that she was talking about.
Yeah, like if she makes one mistake in a speech, sure, that's fine. But if there's another 58 minutes of speech there where it's fine, you still have to worry about the fact that speech is still okay.
That gets into the issue of like the anti-feminist content in the first place, where it's usually treating, it's usually treating the idea of feminism as like this giant monolith, taking the most extreme examples of it and the most extreme quotes from those extreme examples, and then painting all of feminism with that angle, and then saying now feminism is bad. Anybody that calls himself a feminist is bad, when feminism is actually like this huge and varied movement that has like all kinds of sub movements in it. It's not feminism. There's like feminisms.
Yeah, there's and a lot of times you get them defined in like first wave, second wave, third wave, fourth wave.
But even then, you have multiple movements within those. So
yeah.
And that was one of the criticism of it was very monolithic, and that was something that was really frustrating.
And that's kind of one of the reasons why like my channel in the very beginning was very very anti-religious for like the first like 10 episodes, and then I just kind of slowly started going, wait, hold on, and started going, okay, no, my issue isn't Christianity and that it exists. My issue is that Christianity has these problems, and I'm going to address these specific problems in it. Or Islam. Islam exists. Yes, it leads to these specific problems. Let's address these specific problems. As opposed to trying to attack the entire thing as if it's a monolith, which doesn't work.
Right. So I guess back to like, with respect to what's going on with a lot of these atheist channels right now, it does seem that we're seeing like a little bit of a repeat of that, where a lot of these channels that started out as being like, we're atheists, are moving a little bit. And I had there was a AMA on the Atheist Community of Austin's Discord with Genetically Modified Skeptic, where he and I first like really engaged. And I asked him about this. It's like, your content does seem to be having the same sort of like social commentary drift. Is that on purpose? Is that something that, and his response was that like, it's very similar to what I said at the outset of this, that there is a point where you kind of run out of being able to say I'm an atheist.
Yes.
And you start making more commentary. He's sticking with a niche that he's kind of drawn out for himself, which is being against like pseudoscience. And he's also been talking more about Islam lately, because he sees that his perspective is that discussion of Islam is like a taboo thing. So he wants to hammer it home, because he sees a lot of the same problems. Because
typically you've got people like Dillahunty and Aaron who won't talk about Islam for the most part, and their reasoning behind it, which is valid, is Islam isn't as big of a problem here in the States.
Right.
So they tackle Christianity because that's what's causing issues here in the States. And I can understand that, but it still means that there's a niche where that does need to be addressed, because yes, it's not a thing happening here in the States, but the idea that we should only worry about what's happening here in the States is also kind of an American idea in the first place.
Right. And what I think is interesting with GM Skeptic's approach to that is that his approach has been more international with his criticism of Islam. He's been I think he's been talking about stuff like Faithless Hijabi, started by Zara K. He's been talking about Atheist Republic, which is run by an ex-Muslim. I think it's Armin.
Armin
Forget his
Navadi.
last name. Yeah, Armin Navadi. Um, and he's got his approach is very international as well. So, um, that conversation, like with Dillahunty and Arn Ra, they're both in Texas.
Hmm.
Their objective is like we got to talk about what's changing our lives here, what's affecting our lives here. In Texas is where, like, where a lot of like the political advancements of creationism have been. So I understand their perspective on that. I think James Skeptic is in Texas as well, but he's taking like a little bit of a different approach with that.
True.
Uh, but he's been feeling that pull. Mr. Atheist's channel as well has moved into more of a social commentary, um, with his Mormon perspective, his ex-Mormon perspective.
A lot of his stuff has kind of branched really far away from the ex-Mormon perspective. It seems that it's now very.
He mentions it every once in a while, but it's more about like the gender roles thing that's within Christianity with a lot of these channels that have popped up that have been blowing up.
You've got like
It's like
Girl Defined and the Good Housewife and people like them.
that's something to think about as well, is that like creationism was defeated by atheism on YouTube pretty handily.
Mm.
Like there was a period of time where like creationism just got shut down. And that's what caused this deluge of atheist content for a little while, was they didn't have anything to talk about because Christians weren't making content. But in the deluge of atheists, Christians have come back and they're not talking about creationism anymore. They're talking about gender roles. They're talking about like the right way to live in a religious path and that kind of crap. That's more, it's almost a bigger problem because it's more subtle.
Mm.
And there's something to be said for people that want to choose to live a certain way within gender roles within their own house or something like that. But a lot of the advice that these channels give is like downright abusive or justifying abuse or even commanding it.
This is where you get
And-
like the Biblical Gender Roles website, for instance, where
Oh yeah, that's an extreme example, but
It-
I was
it-
thinking more like Girl Defined and
Girl Defined
Morgan
is
and those
problematic, mainly because the image they portray is one that people want to be. Like it's
Yeah.
the same thing that's happened. Like the last few Dangers of Woo episodes I've done on vitamin B17 and cancer and the celery juice video that happened recently. I don't know if you've seen the beginning 3 seconds of that video, but they're horrifying. I'm not kidding, by the way. So,
fuck.
one of the things that I pointed out in those two videos is that the testimonial is the worst thing in existence when it comes to woo, because the testimonial puts an air of something that you want to emulate. And when you want to emulate the thing that the testimonial shows as positive, you will do the things that the person who gives you the testimonial says to do. So Girl Define, if you look at them, they don't show any of their flaws. And when they do have any flaws, it's very giggled away. So there's a lot of people who are like, I want to be them. I want to be like them. What do I do to be like them? But the advice that they give leads to some of the most horrific abusive situations possible.
Right. And I think that's the case with Paul and Morgan as well, is that they have this like idyllic relationship, or at least they front this idyllic relationship.
Yes.
But then they talk about how they're structuring their lives and how they think you should.
And then people are like, I want to do that too because I want to be like them. And it's like,
Right.
stop.
And then
Get
but
some help.
The thing is it's not like there's issues with having the relationship structured the way that they are, but there's also something to be said for, people can choose how to live their lives and structure the relationships however they want to, as long as they're both informed about the decisions they're making and consenting to these ideas. But the way that they're expressing it, it's not within that context. It's within this is right because God says so context.
Like as an example,
Completely different than and atheists are now more getting into, like, some channels have found out this is the new trend. This is what Christians are doing on the internet. This is what needs to be debunked.
Yeah.
This is the new creationism. I think that's what's going on with the atheist community. This is what's going to be happening. We're going to be seeing more of it in the atheist community, where, like, if you look at what Mr. Atheist metrics are, holy shit, guy blew up because he started. He was the first one to really start digging into this and making consistent content over it. So that's he's noticed something, and people are
People have noticed him
responding
as a
to it.
result.
Right. And he's figured out what Christians have been doing this whole time because these accounts that he's starting to talk about aren't new. They're legacy accounts. They've been around for a long time. And nobody's been commenting.
They've just managed to flow under the radar because they weren't what was trendy at the time.
Atheists were busy fighting feminists, and then this shit popped up to get and they got 100,000 plus subscriber channels.
Yeah, which is
talking about how you should have a subservient wife or be a subservient wife.
Yeah, which I would argue is a little worse because, like, yes, there's a conversation that can happen with feminism. I myself consider myself very pro-feminism, but again, there's nuance when it comes to that conversation. Because when I say that, somebody can go, "Oh, are you just one of those Tumblrina SJW types?" I'm like, no, you can check out my content and find out that's not the case. The closest thing I might have where somebody might consider that the case is like my Pokemon video, which was just a giant bait and switch video.
It's hard for a lot of channels to hop onto this. Like, just looking at it from a trends perspective, let's say that everybody's doing things because of trends. A lot of the atheist channels that have set up a name for themselves from like the 2006 era, with a couple of exceptions like RN Raw, can't justifiably start commenting on this without sounding like what they've been criticizing for the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. So, the like Sargon of Akkad. Imagine if Sargon of Akkad started making girl-defined videos.
And then suddenly his audience would just rebel against him at that point.
His audience would be like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah, because that's like
you're sounding like what you've been criticizing.
Yeah, it's completely you're out of his. He's built up a platform where it's out of his weird house.
When you think about it, is like that these like people that venerate themselves as being these rational-minded atheists, that they're a cut above because of their atheism kind of shit, can't actively criticize these things because they would appear being hypocrites by talking about something like girl defined, which is obviously crossing a line somewhere.
I would say it's more crossing a wire.
Yeah. Okay.
Did the wires cross when you tried to process it?
There you go.
There's the joke.
There it is. Click.
Yep. That's one reason why, like, as I've tried to diversify the content on my channel and move out of just talking about atheism, I've tried to make sure that there's several avenues that I can go should people want me to go that route. Like, there's Dangers of Woo, where I try debunking pretty much anything that I think is harmful to people. And not just like, oh, religious dogma, that's harmful. No, woo is a very specific thing. We're talking about people trying to drink their own urine. We're talking about people who think that cyanide cures cancer. That's all in that wheelhouse. There's also LHAC, where if I feel like I want to talk about philosophy that day, that goes into that. And then for video responses is obviously that. I know that the video that I'm going to be doing next is actually going to be on how not to be a shitty person. Specifically in response to victim blaming people who are in abuse.
Oh shit!
Yeah, no, okay. It's not a. I received a comment
talking about like a general map of how not.
No, not a general map.
Something more specific. Okay.
Yeah. No, this is. I received a comment on a video recently, and it's part of a series of types of comments that I've been compiling for a video. I just didn't know when I wanted to do it. This comment is the catalyst for me making this video. Originally, tomorrow's video was going to be a video about polyamory, because I've received a lot of messages about, like, hey, can you explain this to me? How does this work? Should I try it? And I'm just like, I mean, I could make a video about it. I just need incentive. Well, hundreds of comments is incentive enough, I suppose. Right. But no, this particular comment, I don't want to get into it on air because it'll spoil what it's about for tomorrow. But let's just say that it's probably one of the worst comments I've ever received on my YouTube account.
Right.
So, this is going to be fun.
Fuck. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's...
Good luck. That's, I'll watch it. I mean, yeah, I guess it's tomorrow's?
It's tomorrow's video.
Got it.
You know, it's going to be a very interesting conversation. But that's fine, because, like I said earlier, when I said that I'm decently, like, pro-feminist, there's kind of a talking point that this video is going to bring up that will bring some of that to light. If I think it depends on how I go, because there's other comments that are going to be part of this video, because it's going to be part of an overarching theme.
Right.
Ideally, it should only be under 15 minutes, though, because, again, it's comment response, and there's only so much I think people can listen to me yap as I sit here an hour and 10 minutes into a podcast.
So do you think that going forward is going to be more of that kind of content with you?
Going forward, probably.
Are you going to be like, we've talked about a lot of the stuff about how, which to append onto that, a lot of people think that like flat earthers are the new creationists. I don't. I think that things like Girl Defined are the new creationists. That's what is going to be getting a lot of the big debunking videos coming up. But with you going forward, you're talking about moving on into you're not I mean, you still consider yourself an atheist channel.
Yes.
How are you dealing with this phenomenon?
So it's probably
running out of things to say, running out of ways to say you don't believe in God.
What's probably going to be happening is that like there's going to be maybe one video a week that's just a strict like religious debunk. There's one that I've got in the wheelhouse right now, where it's this girl that like has a dream and she thinks that God's talking to her, and as a result, she's going full on headforce into Catholic orthodoxy. It's a very short video, and I've probably lost it now, but I have a link to it somewhere. And it's one of the ones that I want to go into, is just kind of going like, okay, yes, you've had this experience, but here's all these other things this could mean that are probably more likely,
right,
than Yahweh is telling you to dive headfirst into Eastern Orthodoxy.
It's really specific.
Yes, that's why normally with dream stuff it's kind of vague. This is because
I've seen thing. Like dreams. Speaking from the polytheist perspective, dreams being considered religious experience is something that's pretty common. And it's something that I think with, depending on how you're looking at epistemology regarding how gods communicate, what they are in the first place, and all that kind of stuff, dream communication boils down to an is it external or is it internal question of whichever way you're going. You're begging the question one way or the other. Some people can go that this is God communication. Some people go, well, this is just me. But saying that a dream gets you to go specifically into Eastern Orthodox religion, she describes the dream, I assume, right?
No, she doesn't.
No, she doesn't. Okay, well then
she just says She just says I had a dream and it affirms this.
Oh, well then we don't have very much to interpret, then, do we?
No, which is
at least as far as like us trying to verify it.
Yeah, which makes things decently complicated at that point.
Right. It's usually because I've had a couple of conversations with other heathens about dream-related experiences, and the first thing that we start talking about is, okay, well, what was the dream, and what are the major symbols that are within the dream? Let's talk about kind of what was going on. And I try to do it in such a way that doesn't have any leading questions of just like, well, can you describe what was this aspect? What was going on? What is this? Are there any?
You're not trying to go like full on Socratic at that point.
Exactly. It's more like I want to get as much information that's unfettered as possible, so that then we can actually talk about, like whether or not it even aligns with anything. Because sometimes it just doesn't. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to consider it a spiritual experience, but they feel like it was, or something like that, and somebody just brought up, I wish I could remember my dream. Sometimes people wake up with like the feeling that they had like a meaningful experience in their dream, but they don't remember shit about it.
For me, what it usually boils down to, if I wake up and I spend time pondering what I dreamed, then I remember it. But if I wake up having just dreamed, it will slowly filter out of my mind.
Yeah, it just goes away.
It's just gone.
I think that part of it's supposed to. I'd love to remember like all of my dreams as vividly as I remember the rest of my life, but there's only like a handful of them that I really do.
It was a really neat dream I had where a T-Rex was stomping on the shed outside my house. It was weird.
I still remember a dream that I had when I was like a little kid that involved an ant stinging me. But like I'm not talking about an ant stinging me. I'm talking about like an ant. So the reason why it stuck out is that this ant was like the size of a large chihuahua.
The ant stuck out like a sore thumb.
There's more sore than that. It like jabbed me in the abdomen in this dream, and I woke up in like horrendous pain.
Jeez.
And nothing had happened to me, but I felt every bit of that as a kid. So anyway, like things like that happen in dreams, and when you get something that's like you feel is a spiritual experience, there are like a lot of questions about that, and this is stuff that comes up in lore all the time, discussions about dreams. Like even the Bible has this as God communication in dreams. So uh, at that point, maybe if you consider if you consider yourself a theist from the starting point of examining things, and you say, well, gods are a possibility. Sure. But does that mean that she should do it? Does that mean that it's Eastern Orthodox?
Well, especially considering
what about the dream experience says that it has to be the Christian God? Like, these are questions that I would want to know.
Well, especially from like the polytheistic perspective, the mere fact that a god communicates with you in a dream doesn't necessarily mean that your values will align with that god. So even if that god,
Correct.
even if that god were real and were trying to convince you of anything, that doesn't necessarily mean you should do it, because it might be one that has completely different values than you do, which
Right.
would lead some people in very awkward directions. And it's weird when somebody says something like that and they say, no, this is the reason I'm doing this. I'm like, okay, well, wouldn't it be better to try to actually like go through multiple reasons of why you would choose this? There's got to be, I'm going to make the assumption that with this person, they were already considering this. This was already a path they were walking down. This is just a nail in the coffin kind of deal. And if that's the case, then if the dream hadn't have happened, would she have just gone into orthodoxy anyway? In which case, why even mention the dream?
Right. And it's it could be that she just desires it. Is there orthodoxy in her family background? Or is her family background like fucking Baptist?
The Baptist background that are just like, Catholics are all non-Christians, and she's like, I'm going to be the one real Catholic.
I'm going to be like more Catholic than the Catholics. Haha. That's
I'm
what
gonna
that's what Orthodox think of themselves, by the way.
I'm going to transubstantiate the shit out of this bread. But actually, the videos that I do have planned right now, I actually have a list of them all, because Emmett, Gaelic Knox in the chat have mentioned that I desperately need to have a list of videos that are planned out, because if I don't, she can't make thumbnails.
Good plan.
So there was the Dangers of Woo, Celery Does Not Cure Cancer. That one was just finished. We have Hammered Out Moving On, which was just finished. Polyamory was the next one, but of course that one's getting swept to the side for a minute because pressing issues. Then Biblical Gender Role 6 is going to be on Monday. Because
So are you not releasing a video tomorrow?
I am releasing a video tomorrow. The video tomorrow is the one about abuse. And then the Biblical Gender Roles video, apparently there's an article they have where
that's right.
It's incredibly pro-abuse, so I'm just going to stick in that wheelhouse for a little bit and just be like, well, I've already done my research on this. Might as well just go ahead and apply it here too.
That's a topic. I guess you've seen like the wheel and everything like that, right? The wheel of abuse.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that is one of the most like straightforward explanations of abusive behavior that I've seen. It communicates the concepts really well of like the cycle of what happens to people. As another one, I think Circle of Hope made a lot of content about this. It was like really easy to understand about abuse. So there's things to discuss there. If you haven't already looked in that direction,
we've also got another video that's going to be about comments. That's going to be after that. One of the reasons I was compiling these comments was for a general comment video, not a focused one. But I'm thinking that it's just going to be the focused video is going to happen and the general comment reading is going to happen, where I'm going to find some of the more interesting comments that have appeared on my channel, where it's just kind of that whole thing like, hey, I do read these things. Oh, no, bad. Very bad.
Bad? Okay.
Bad
Because
comments.
I've seen some interesting good comments that have shown up. Like in the chat, I just saw Juice Me Daddy.
Yes, that's actually from the Celery video.
Okay. Oh.
That is strictly from the Celery video.
That's quoting you. Okay, so that's not as weird. All right.
Oh, no, it's not quoting me. It's quoting a couple of demonic celery stocks. Are you okay?
I think you just broke me.
Oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. In fact, Ocean, actually, allow me to... And it's a 3-second video. It's 3 seconds. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this thing where the chat is going to hear it.
But I'm not going to be able to.
You're not going to be able to hear it, but...
No.
Well, actually, no. You'll be able to get it, because I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to send it to you over the Facebook real quick.
Juice Me Daddy.
Yep. Here you go.
Demonic celery sticks. Are you sending this to me over the books of face?
Yes, over the books of face. It's a 3-second video. Just it's okay. Trust me. And for anybody who's in the
Trust you.
for anybody who's in the chat who hasn't heard it already, here we'll go ahead and play it out for you.
Juice us, Daddy.
So,
Hold on a second. I've got to see this.
we will wait. Me and the chat will wait to see your reaction.
What the fuck did I just watch?
You can thank Gaelic Knox for that animation.
What the fuck did I just watch? What have you done?
For anybody in the chat who has a second tab to open, just in case, if you haven't seen it already, here, it's 3 seconds of your life. You'll never get it back, though.
What the fuck did I just watch? Why is this unlisted, first off?
It's unlisted because it's part of a larger video. It is the first 3 seconds of my celery video. So, for everybody who gets to be terrified.
Oh my god.
And just so you know, the voices in that's just me and Aaron. Those are just me and Aaron doing our voices. Says that it can't be reached when you click the link. That's weird. Oh well, that's fine. If anybody, after this, if you guys watch my Dangers of Woo episode about celery, then you'll see it there. So, the next video that's in the wheelhouse is Evolutionists Say the Oddest Things.
Christ. Going into that creationism stuff.
Yep. And then after that, there is... Hold on, Blue Collar Heathen says it's 3 seconds of 444 shades of fucked up. The next one that I have is it's the third video I'm having to do on Damien Proselytes, because apparently his channel is going to be a plethora of the dumbest things I've ever heard. So he's doing a video called Men Are Emasculated. So
Where do you find these people? This is the thing that's like, and Non Sequitur Show has been able to capitalize on this, and a lot of channels have been able to capitalize on this, of just finding the people that have like the weirdest claims that they're fucking married to. And I say this as a guy who believes in Thor, like that are willing to just like go on YouTube and proclaim to the world that they believe things like the world is flat, or that like what was this that you just said? What did
he says that all men are emasculated.
For what fucking reason?
Because apparently
or how?
His thought process behind it is because men are more open to do things they want to do, they no longer do the things they're supposed to do. And my counter argument to that has always been pretty much the same thing. If I'm an adult male, I can do whatever the fuck I want. You can't tell me what I'm supposed to do. If I want to go out there and wear a dress, I will fucking wear that dress, and I will rock that dress.
This is like where my mind goes. But like the when you explained that to me, the first thing that came into my head is this about pegging? Like, that's where that's where my head went. I was just like, and then I was like, my head, why did you go there? And
he has another video about depression.
It responded back, and it was like, because everything that he said applies to that, is that this person actually is just afraid of being pegged, and because men are more open to the concept of these things. Like, okay,
it's an interesting thing. His channel is covered in all kinds of dumb shit. He has a video that I'm thinking about doing. Oh, we have a thing from 01231. There are people that believe the history went from 499 AD to 1500 AD, and that 1,000 years of fake history was invented.
There are people that believe that history went from 499 AD to 1500 AD.
The Roman Empire never happened. It was actually just a marketing scheme for
years
Gladiator
of fake
that went out of
history
control.
was invented since then. Crazy conspiracies
and then Biblical
are
History
fun.
Skeptic says I emasculate myself every day. But I also want to point out something that's really funny that was said in between those comments. Which
pegging,
was,
is that like juicing? Juice me. Every single time.
This topic is dead.
Every single time that somebody brings up some dumb woo shit, I'm going to send them that celery video now. Oh, is this like celery juicing? What do you mean? Juice me, daddy.
Jeez.
So, that said, so I do have a set of topics that are going to be coming up. The next Dangers of Woo is
into
also
a new realm on Hammered Out here, guys. Like, that's just what's going on.
the next Dangers of Woo is also going to be on Prosperity Ministries, BT Dubs.
Oh, okay.
Because I did a video on Peter Popoff before, and I requested at the end of that video that people could send me any prosperity ministries that they had been influenced by or knew of that they wanted debunked, and that's all going into, if I can compile everything, it's all going into one large Dangers of Woo episode on the concept of prosperity ministries. So,
okay,
that'll be an interesting one. I think that's going to be the
I know
most.
You're getting more into Dangers of Woo, right? Like you want to discuss more of those kind of topics.
It's not just that I want to discuss them, because I do want to. But Dangers of Woo is the
You've
more.
also been bribed.
I've also been bribed. Yes, Twist is one of my $50 patrons, and $50 patrons get the ability to request one video a month, and he requested more focus on Dangers of Woo. So instead of getting a video, he's just requesting a focus. And if you're paying that much to me, I'm sorry, but I kind of have to start doing the things.
Pro tip, that's how you get more than one video out of the $50 a month patron reward.
Yes.
I want this subject generally.
And that's a way to get 50 videos out of your request.
Oh, God damn it. Oh, boy. But yeah, no, the situation with skeptic channels in general seems to be that they do have a tendency of moving on from just atheism and moving into other topics. And unfortunately, the reason for that is because atheism itself, there are people who want to deny this, but atheism itself is a vapid topic. And it's a topic that literally only exists in conjunction with theism. Theism did not exist. Atheism literally would not be a topic. So,
I don't know about that.
Are you sure?
I don't know. I like in the chicken and egg conversation. I just think theism came first, but so like, I mean, sure, the atheism wouldn't be a topic without theism because they're kind of defined off of each other. But given how intuitive theism is, I have a hard time believing that there's a world with humans in it that this wouldn't be a discussion. You know what I mean?
It depends. I don't know if you've ever, I've mentioned it before on my channel, but I don't know if you've ever read the Dragon Riders of Pern series.
Okay.
It's a sci-fi series where a group of people they're basically stuck in an intergalactic war, and they realize that the only way for them to really escape this war is for them to get sent to another planet that has no benefit to any one side of the war. So they have an entire group of people that get sent down, and they have all of the different types of people that would be needed to start a society. They have people who can breed, people who can till land, people who can do genetics research. They're all sent down to this planet that has only agricultural benefits. There's barely any mineral content on this planet. It can't be mined for anything. It just exists. They get sent there, and because they get sent there out of a non-religious society, the idea of religion can only ever be brought up by the narrator because this society has no concept of it.
Okay.
The idea of, but what's funny is that even though the society has no concept of religion or of gods, all the technology that they have gets lost. And thousands of years later, they all are living in castles, and they're living in just standard, like, medieval type settings, with the only difference being that they have dragons, because the people who came down genetically engineered some of the animals on the planet to be dragons functionally, because they didn't have the equipment to do these to protect their land the way that they could with what was already designed to be predatory to the things that were killing them.
This is getting real convoluted.
It is. Yeah. It's a little convoluted, but basically, the end result though is that as they discover technology again, like when they find their old spaceships and shit thousands of years later, religion then develops.
Okay. The
people who are against the old technology, saying that it's evil and their version of demonic, religions then develop as a result of that. It's weird.
The reason why I was, and I can see that. I saw that coming a little bit, but I posted a link to my Discord in the side chat, by the way.
Okay, that's fine.
It's a little bit of self-advertising. But the thing that I was thinking is that, like, if even assuming that there aren't gods, it does seem that theism is really intuitive to humans. Given the thousands of years where polytheism pretty much was like everywhere, where there's like eerily similar concepts of God and that show up in nearly every civilization that exists, with the exception of like a handful.
Yeah. We only have like, I think, one example of that, really.
I think that there is one, but even they still have spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that, and even then, that particular example, I think they still have like a concept of deity. It's just not the same as it has a lot of differences, but even then, there's still an exception. Anyway, the thing that's kind of interesting about that is that it pops up in multiple places all over the world and all this other kind of stuff. That even if there aren't gods, it does seem that humans gravitate towards this concept really easily. So it's hard for me to imagine a world that contains humans that doesn't also contain religion, irrespective of the god's existence. Because if the gods don't exist and this is a thing, then we're gravitated to this naturally. If they do exist, then there does seem to be a consistent worldwide communication of some sort through experiences. So, and maybe, maybe it's possible to think that in a world where humans aren't having these experiences, then no God belief would happen. You know what I mean?
I seem to have a lot of people who have read Pern in my chat now.
That's really funny. I've never even heard of this person.
He says the video is buffered for a minute. I thought Cirrus has gone between. So in Pern, dragons can teleport, but when they teleport, they have to go into this like really cold, really vacuous space called between, and they can die if they stay too long in there.
That's interesting.
When dragons lose their riders, they actually commit suicide. They go in between and just freeze to death.
Is this because I read like a couple of books when I was like a kid and involved like dragon riders and like a whole mythology around them. Is this that?
It's called the Dragon Riders of Pern, yes.
Oh.
So you might have read some of these.
Yeah, I've read a little bit of it, yeah.
Yeah, this is
like when I was a kid, there was like some ritual involving eggs.
Yes, the beginning of the beginning of the book is actually them. They develop a ritual around the eggs because new dragons become so scarce, and they have to protect eggs, and they have to have a whole ritual around like getting a new dragon rider on eggs and shit.
Okay,
it's a very cool. The only problem with Pern is that it's a long
they have like
series.
Crystal eyes and shit, and like all these like yes. I remember this. It's a really neat world and what I read of it. I kept looking for because I read it when I was a kid, and then I lost that it threw a move or something like that. The book that I had involving it disappeared. Like honestly, a lot of things from my childhood are completely gone just because of like moving from place to place and things getting destroyed through various things. But that Dragon Riders book was one of them. And I tried finding it again, and I didn't. I could never. It's like, wait, what is this thing?
I have just reintroduced you to part of your childhood.
There was a point where I actually found out it was Dragon Riders of Pern. There was another. I found it through another thing, and then I wound up trying to find a book and couldn't find it, and then now I've reminded it again. Now I want to start that journey again because I bet you it's pretty easy to find them.
It's easy to find them now, especially at like used bookstores. Like if you go down to Second and Charles, they have a lot of them.
Oh, dude, there's a book nook like right down the road from me. I could probably just go there.
The only issue with Pern, and my warning with Pern, is that it is one of the longest running book series. Like it ran for a good portion of Anne McCaffrey's life, and then when she died, her son took up the mantle of continuing the series. Oh. So it's like 40 or 45 books in now.
That's interesting. Actually less than I expected it to be because there's a book series that I bumped into that's at like, oh, never mind. No, it's at book like 30 something. Okay, cool.
It's very long, but it covers several thousand years of lore and history. So like it makes sense that there would be so many books in this series.
Right.
But that said, I do think that we've sufficiently covered most of what we wanted to talk to on the topic.
Yeah, I think we just got telekinetically linked or telepathically linked there for a second because I was like, "Are we still on topic? We're not on topic anymore.
No.
It's gone."
No.
So is there anything else that we want to tackle regarding all of that, or do we want to just like fuck off?
No, I can't think of it. So I mean, obviously, there's one thing I wanted to tackle first. First thing I wanted to say is I have received a good bit of donations from subscribers in relation to what happened with the Erin situation where we had to go and grab her. And I wanted to thank all you guys again for that, because that honestly is helping out a lot towards getting things that we were not able to grab in the move, because we have a little Volkswagen, which is not the biggest vehicle in the world. So when we had me and Pam in the vehicle grabbing Erin and her dog, and what little supplies could get thrown in there. There's obviously some stuff that's missing.
Right.
So that is helping towards getting a lot of that stuff built back up. So thank you guys a lot for that. That's been incredibly helpful.
I think if you had to move your life and you could only fit one trip in a car within a, like, how long does she have to get things together and get out? Like,
she had all of like an hour.
Right. So
because we had to actually
you got an hour.
Get her up in the dead of night.
Jeez. That's rough, man.
Yeah, it was a fun situation, but I did want to say just another thank you to people who have done that and all the support that has come in regards to that situation. So thank you guys.
Definitely.
And then Erin is signing something to me, but I can't read ASL. Oh no, I understand. Thank you. Erin is saying thank you as well.
She just gave you sign language.
Well, up until like 2 months ago, she was deaf. Like she just had the surgery.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. But that said, thank you guys. Thank you guys for watching as we've gone through this whole long-winded stuff. And thank you for tolerating some of the tangents that we've gone on. Hopefully we've given you guys some stuff to read as well.
That's kind of a hammered out episode as we tackle things and we run off in this direction, run off in that direction. That's consequence of having me on the show. I'm sorry.
That's perfectly. It's my fault too. I'm the one that got us on the topic of books.
He started talking about Dragon Rider, and I was like, "Wait, my childhood. What have you done with my childhood? This exists." But yeah, I mean, like,
it's gonna be an adventure getting all those books again for me.
We've been blathering on, and we're sitting at 81 current viewers, and like, you guys are awesome, man. There's a lot of you jumping in today. This is great. We're just talking about what happens with atheist YouTube channels consistently.
Yeah.
But there's a good history that, I've explained to you, I guess. You said that you've only been like halfway finding out about this, like, because you joined late.
Yeah, I was a Christian who didn't know about like the side of YouTube at all during the TJ Kirk days and the Cult of Destiny days.
Yeah, like you didn't know. When did you get like involved in the? When did you start watching?
I started watching only about 2 years ago. Yeah.
Jesus, Cirrus is a baby.
Yeah, pretty much. It's weird.
There's so much drama you've got to catch up on, man. Have you watched all of the 75-part Why Do People Laugh at Creationists series?
Yes, I have.
Okay, well, you're on the right track then.
I've watched all of that. I've watched all of Foundational Falsehoods. I've watched practically all of Logic's videos. Like, a lot of the legacy creators, I have seen most of their stuff.
Yeah. Have you explored the descent of Sargon of Akkad yet? That's a journey, actually, seeing him change.
I've seen all of 2 episodes from him.
Like, honestly, the thing that the most interesting journey of atheist YouTuber into now has been Sargon of Akkad, because he went from your typical atheist YouTuber into a feminist critic really early, and then descended into being like not alt-right but close, and then this liberalist thing, and then his war with Mr. Medicare for a little while, into like this journey into politics with UKIP, where he's like just failed miserably at understanding what politics is, straight down to like wearing a disheveled suit and thinking that he was hot shit while he was wearing this disheveled suit.
Speaking of wars, I think the most entertaining war between creators I've seen on YouTube has actually been Not Joe Witness and what's his fuck, Dr. Gaiman.
I don't know. I haven't been keeping, like, I know of Notja. I've been in several like hangouts with him. He's a really chill dude. I'm not familiar with the other person.
Dr. Gaiman is a...
Explain me a thing with this, because I don't know anything about this.
He's discount Hoven.
Oh, okay.
He's also very anti-education.
Okay.
He's like, the teachers are bullying us into doing our homework. Like, shut the fuck up, you child.
He's even more discount than like, what's his fucking face?
He's more discount than Josiah. He's very, very discount.
Oh, Josiah.
Like Josiah is discount Hoven.
All right, I was thinking of what's his face? Kill the Gays.
Anderson or Matt Powell?
No, Matt Powell.
Matt Powell is a charismatic and articulate, wonderful leader compared to Dr. Gaiman.
God damn it!
Gaiman makes Powell look good, which is bad.
Wow.
And if you want some hilarity, just go on to Not Just Channel and start his Dr. Gaiman series and go through it. It is thoroughly entertaining because what he does is he goes, instead of just debunking a Dr. Gaiman video, he looks at the video and he'll get one of his friends and they will go through the video with a grading sheet and grade it as if, because he's anti-education.
Like
Yeah, so since he's so anti-education, they go through his stuff and grade it as if it's an educational paper.
All right, what did you score?
There have been some times where like
pass this class or not.
Sometimes there have been times where they get through and they're just like, "How did you get to negative 1023?"
That's an adventure. It's like, all right, well, I got to deduct 100 points for that.
like it's like I think it's like 15 points per logical fallacy, 15 points per false claim, like 10 points per grammatical error. Just like it goes down.
Speaking of,
rips it apart.
When I was in high school, I did score negative a couple of times because there was a teacher that I had that did a scoring system like that where you, like, it was deduction per whatever, and I wound up with like negative 20. And that was put into my average, so I had to fight that score. And even when like a negative 20 is like just put into your homework or something like that, because that's where it was. It's still like it affects your grade overall like pretty heavily because there's a negative 20 in there.
Yeah.
And so like everything else just kind of gets screwed.
Everything gets eaten.
Yeah, and this was in high school when like your grades like semi matter.
Yeah.
So shit.
Unless they hand you the syllabus and you find out that like most of your stuff is worth only 5% of your grade, and then you just don't do any of it because you'd rather just focus on the big project.
But see, the thing is, if this was a case where if I had not turned in something, I would have scored better than what I did do.
Meanwhile, Aaron is apparently screaming at me for why did I do that? And I'm just like, because I'm lazy.
Well, yeah, and I did that. I did that too, where it was like, oh, that's worth 5% of my grade.
That's a World of Warcraft night.
I won't do it. I did. This was a terrible thing that happened. When I was in high school, I took a trigonometry class twice, and it's the reason why I took it twice was because homework didn't count.
Then why even have it?
Well, it was assigned so that you could fucking learn. Like you would do it, and she didn't care whether or not you completed the homework. She cared whether or not you knew the material. Mm-hmm. And I was like, great, finally a teacher that does this in the way that I like to do things. But I wound up just not doing the homework.
Yeah. And
as a result of not doing the homework, trigonometry is a really complicated form of math. Like, you need a graphic calculator in order to do a lot of it. And a lot of it isn't like necessarily knowing like how the numbers relate to each other, but knowing like how to do the problem and showing your work. And I went into complete hell because I would try to figure out how to do a lot of the problems on test day. And I would still score like a 70 sometimes, but that was high. And I wound up failing because my high was a 70 of like figuring out how to do trigonometry on the day of a test. And it went through Like and cool ESO saying you slept through Mr.
He
Trig
slept
1
through
classes.
Trig 1, and he's
Okay.
a cool guy.
Did you do your homework? Do you know how to do it? If you knew how to do it, then you were ahead of me. I didn't know how to do it, so I wound up getting screwed, and I had to take the class again, and then I nearly failed the second time around by, guess what, making the same mistake. So it was just like,
He said, "What's homework?"
Yeah. He said what? He said what homework?
He said, "What's homework?"
What's homework? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and fair. That was pretty much my attitude through a lot of high school.
Yeah,
I managed to get out alive, but
homework for me in high school was whatever I could get done in the first 10 minutes before class.
In fairness, it was AP Trig that I did this in. I wound up failing AP Trig, and then I managed to talk my way into getting AP Trig a second time to retake it, and then I did the same problem and fucked up all the same ways. Because they were covering, it was like then I wound up I almost failed.
That the end result of that was you almost failed.
I managed to get out of it the second time, but it wasn't. It was through much fighting. I barely got out.
But that said, we are sufficiently tangential enough to probably sign off.
Yeah, or cosine.
Or
we are off tangent enough
to
cosine.
We are off tangent enough to Ocean. I swear to